Hey, what's up everybody? My name's Spencer and I'm totally not Kason wearing a wig. I just want to let you guys know that I heard 65% of the people that watch his channel are not subscribed. So if you want to be part of the cool 35% of people who are subscribed, make sure you click that button down below. That way you don't miss any new content that comes out. Actually, I think he's starting to make a video right about now. What's up everybody, my name is Kason and welcome back to another War of the Visions Final Fantasy Brave Exvius video. Today is going to be my ultimate guide to Velne, the Lightning Selection Quest unit. She is a unit that does not get used very often, but I think does have some play, especially in cost-limited formats. For today's guide summary, we've got the character breakdown discussing stats, resistances, and her different strengths, her bread and butter section, which is what makes the character tick. We've got the vision card layout, favorite Espers, equipment, Truststones, all of the works in this guide for you guys today, so let's get started. So the first thing in the character breakdown we need to talk about is her stat pool. She has the 21st overall attack stat in the game, but all of her other stats leave quite a bit to be desired. She has an okay HP stat, but the agility, dex, and luck are quite low. She is a very inaccurate unit due to this, so you want to stay away from those evasion units and things like that. And her agility does seem lacking, but she does have something in her kit that kind of makes up for this, which we will go over later in the video. Her master ability, she does have the generic lightning party master ability with 15 lightning attack and 10% HP for the party, and she also gets 20 defense pen for herself. Now for her resists, they're really not that bad, they're pretty average. -5 to pierce and -10 to magic, those are her weaknesses, and then she gets 10 strike and missile resist as well as 5 slash resist. 50% blind resist, 50% paralysis resist, and that unique 10% petrify resist. Look out, Mustadio. So for the strength, she has niche attack types because she has both pierce and strike attacks. She has solid range in her both Lancer and Dragoon subjob. She has a good attack stat like we said, and her equipment choices, which I will go over later in the video, is a definite strength for her and something that can really make her excel. As for job, she has the Lancer main job, Dragoon subjob, and Monk subjob. She has the standard 3-1 jump or 3-1 move jump, and she is a cost 80 unit. So moving into the bread and butter section, this is, like I said, what makes the character work. This is, to summarize really well, what she does well, right? So her first attack is Night Hunter. This is a skill that gets upgraded with her EX job. It is a 165% damage modifier lightning pierce attack. It has a range height of 1, it has 6 casts and 17 AP. The reason this is kind of her bread and butter is this is her most basic attack. 17 AP is not a ton in this game, so even without buffing, she can a lot of times get this off maybe twice in a row right at the start of the fight, and if she buffs once, she can probably use this 3 times. So pretty cost efficient move. It's got a really nice range of 5 with the range height of 1. Just a overall decent move for her for a pierce attacker. She has Terra Slash, which is in her Monk sub job. So if you're running Monk sub, this is a piercing attack. So not piercing damage. Piercing means it will go through units to hit the target. So if its target is 4 spaces away, it will do damage to everybody in this path. Range height of 1 again. Cost 30 AP, so it's a little more AP hungry, but decent damage, and this is one of her AoE attacks. As I've said in other videos, Strike is a type of damage that's really not resisted very often, so in terms of her Monk subjob, this is going to be her bread and butter attack. If you are running her as a Dragoon subjob, Horizontal Jump is going to be her main attack for that. It is 220% modifier, which is very, very high, a range height of 0, 3 casts, 24 AP, overall just a really solid attack. So her main job and her 2 sub-job attacks, these are the main things that she is going to use in her kit. Now, she has one passive that is very, very good, and it is Swift Pierce Mastery, excuse me. It gives her pierce attack of 15, which is really solid as a start. It gives her agility 20% for 5 turns. Now, we said earlier that her agility stat kind of sucks. This makes up for it quite a bit. This essentially gives her 11 agility on top of what she already had, which I believe is like a 57 standard agility. So honestly, she has a pretty good agility stat starting the fight, but only because she has this passive. In the same regard, her already fairly high attack stat gets even higher because she gets 40% for 5 turns from this passive. So this passive is really the only reason she's even usable. If she didn't have this, she would be pretty trash. So always use Swift Pierce Mastery. And she has a few counterattacks. One other counterattack that I think is pretty good, but this is the one I like to use pretty much every single time, and it's Dragon's Blade. It is a 20% chance to counter, which is pretty average. It does only a 50 damage modifier, which isn't a ton, but it's a typeless attack, which means it's very hard to resist. And also, the fact is that it absorbs all the HP of that damage she deals. So especially if you're stacking up things like Maneater or something like that, you can do a lot of damage with this attack and heal a ton of HP back, especially because she can get her defense pen up to a decent level. For the vision card layout, I think there's two main VCs that you want to run on her, and it's just really dependent on what you want from it. If you want a little more bulky setup or a little more tanky setup, you can run the Scorpion Sentinel VC on her because it gives her 10 AoE resist, or the character holding it gets 10 AoE resist. If you would like more damage, which I really like on her because she is mainly just a damage dealer and almost nothing else, you can run the Esther Dreamiest of Eggs VC. This gives a 30% attack steroid to the person holding it. So just like when I talked about Mariluke or Queen, really trying to maximize that strike damage, she can do the same type of thing with her strike attacks, and she can also do it with her pierce attacks. This card is really good for her, and it's probably my favorite personally. As for sub VCs, there's one that's my personal favorite, and it's Clairvoyant Astrologer. Now this gives 35% attack and 35% acquired AP to the party when it is in the main slot. When it's in the sub VC, I believe it gives 18%, but that's still a really solid amount for both of those things. And not only that, one of the biggest things about Velne is that she doesn't have a lot of good AoE attacks. Now, if you equip this in her sub slot, she actually gets the move Armor Piercer, which is a defense breaking AoE pierce attack, which is extremely useful, and I think a lot of people probably don't use enough. It's just a really good skill overall, and this is probably my favorite sub VC. So my favorite pairing would probably be the Esther VC with Clairvoyant as the sub. Now, if you didn't have Clairvoyant Astrologer and you wanted to give her more agility or something like that, you could also run the Coral sub VC or the Salir vs. Raychez VC. I think either one would work perfectly fine. It's all really just preference on what you want to run. For team VCs, the Ibarra VC is always good for AoE resist and dexterity. Agaion's a good VC to just give her a little more health. The accuracy really doesn't matter that much because she's just a super inaccurate character. Again, you don't want to bring her against evasion, so we don't care about the accuracy too much. But again, that HP is really nice. The attack stat from Ifrit is also a really good sub VC, but only if you are not running Clairvoyant Astrologer, because the party attack stat from this will not stack with the Clairvoyant one, so you really gotta pick and choose. Me personally, I would much rather have the Clairvoyant Astrologer one. Frederica's Dream is also a really nice sub VC for an anti-missile comp, and if you're running anybody else who has missile attacks, it can be really good, especially because if you're running this with acquired AP, both this card right here and Coral already have some different acquired AP in their VC, so you don't want to stack that too much. You might have an open slot for a different card that you want, and that could be Frederica's Dream. As for favorite Espers, I think there's three personally that I like a lot on her. The first one is Scorpion Sentinel, and I like this on basically every lightning attacker in the game. It has 25 lightning attack, 7 crit rate, 9 crit damage, 20 missile resist, which is really nice, 6 slash resist, and 7 accuracy. So not the most damage in the game from an Esper. With a lightning pierce attacker, it's hard to find nodes that work basically universally for her, but I think 25 lightning attack and some crit along with some bulk is a pretty good Esper for her overall. If you are specifically going against the water element, I do recommend the Coral VC. It can give you 25 lightning attack, 15 water killer, and another 10% water resist. This is an MR Esper, and especially if you didn't play during the FF7 collaboration, this can be a really good alternative to the Scorpion Sentinel, especially because it gives another 15% attack and 7 crit evasion to boot. Another really good Esper that I recommend on essentially every single physical unit in the game is obviously Odin. Comes with 25 human killer, 15 missile and slash resist, 7% attack, and 7 accuracy. This Esper is overall just really amazing. Really high agility stat. You can never go wrong with this Esper. For equipment options, I have listed a number of things on this page, but to be completely honest, I think there are two pieces of equipment that are almost always best in slot for her. The first thing is Cruel Arrogance. This is the spear that was handed out in the Near collaboration. This is 9S's spear. Comes with 30 lightning attack and 15 pierce attack. Those modifiers are just really, really large for her, and I find it really hard to believe that any other weapon is really better for her. So if you have this, I pretty much always run this every single time. Not pretty much, I do run this every single time. So if you don't have it, you could use a wind spear or this TMR that is actually from Alim. Both of them could kind of work, but honestly, due to her other pieces of equipment, these are just, they're not optimal. Realistically, you want the Cruel Arrogance spear if you want to get the most out of Velne possible. And because she is not the strongest unit in the game, you really do have to try and stretch everything out of her you can. In terms of armors and accessory, there is a clear winner here, and this is her own unique accessory, available only through Lightning Selection quests. So if you've completed up to level 13, you will get this piece of equipment fully decked out, or you're able to deck it out fully. Gives her 20 defense pen, which is really, really solid. This is the most defense pen you can get on a piece of equipment. It also gives her 15 human killer mod, which is really, really nice. 100 defense debuff resist. This is not as big of a deal just because her defense typically does not get crazy high, but it could make a small amount of difference against somebody who wants to break her defense. And 10 unit resist is really, really, really good. And with my favorite personal TMR, and I will show you in my arena showcase later some use of it, is Kane's TMR. I think this is so incredibly good for her. The thing is, Velne really wants to try and get in the fight as soon as possible. One of her passives is that she buffs up that agility and attack stat at the start of the fight. Giving herself haste and move +1, essentially on most maps, what she's going to do is use Dragon's Pride. So now all of a sudden she has 4 movement and she has haste. And then on the second turn, she will be in range to hit somebody with one of her long range abilities, or be able to go up and hit somebody with Armor Piercer. And it just works out really well. You want to try and get the fight over as quickly as possible with Velne. You want her to run in, hit somebody really hard a couple of times, and hopefully the fight is over sooner rather than later. She is not good with like really sustained fights. So honestly, this is my #1 favorite TMR for her, just in general. The second one that I like quite a bit is Old Doa's Apron, but if you are running this, you really need to try and make up for that agility, because she really will not be very quick if you're running this TMR. I will go over some of my favorite Truststone sets on the next slide to cover this a little bit. But this can be a decent one. It can give her a little bit of AP, gives her defense pen so that even if you weren't running like an assault set, she still could reach 100 defense pen as long as you have the right passives and stuff like that. Or rather, she would be able to reach, I believe, 90 defense pen, not 100. But either way, that's a lot of defense pen for her. It's just overall really solid. Sweetheart Eldira, this is like my new favorite TMR in the game. I just think it's so ridiculously good. 30 unit resist is so awesome, and +1 move jump. It just helps her with her mobility, and some of her skills have not a lot of height range, so being able to jump more can be a really, really good advantage for her. These two TMRs down here, I think the Rob Horn TMR, the Glinting Armor, is just a really good TMR overall. Running Keen Blaze strategies is a very old strategy, but it's a very successful strategy. One of the best PvP players that I know, probably the best player in all of Orange A's tournaments, Cop uses Rob Horn's Glinting Armor basically every single time if he can, and I don't blame him because it's incredible. Victoria's TMR, this, I believe it's called the Greed Armor. I haven't actually personally tested this out, but I think this could be really good in theory. A 1-turn buff of 80 pierce attack and 30 accuracy could be really, really useful, especially if you were to use that before dropping Armor Piercer, because you have that big AoE, and I think that move would hit like a truck. For favorite Truststones, normally for a lot of characters, I have a bunch of different sets that I like on them. But to be completely honest with Velne, to get the most out of her, I think you need one of two things. You either need to run the attack and TP set, which gives her more attack stat, gives her more defense pen, and it gives her a slightly amount more acquired AP so that she can get her skills off. Or if you are running Odoa's Apron, which gives her a ton of defense pen, I think you have to run Agility set with her just to get that speed up, because otherwise she's just going to be too slow unless you are running some sort of Time Mage to give her haste or something like that. So my favorite 2 set pairings are Attack and TP and Agility and HP. You could run like a bulkier thing rather than TP. You could run HP or something like that, but to be completely honest, she's not going to tank more than 2 hits. She can tank more than 1 hit on a lot of occasions. Like even if you run TP set, she will probably take a 1 hit and live, but she's not going to probably take 3 hits and live. Like she probably won't take 2 hits and live. So I just personally like this Attack and TP set. Like I said, I think this is slightly underrated. Agility and HP are solid. For this example set, this would be like a water killer set. So slash resistance and water resist 7, critical evade and attack debuff resistance, just to make sure her attack stat stays high, and the generic HP up, luck up Truststone that I think is good on basically everyone. For the attack set, attack up 20%, acquired AP up 20%. I put the acquired AP up in for sure. She absolutely needs it. You don't need defense pen because, again, like I said, her favorite piece of equipment is her own unique piece, which gives her 20 defense pen. So you don't want defense pen in here because it won't stack with each other. Reaction block rate 20 I think is also good in this anti-water set, just because Prescient Advantage is such a good counter for Astrius. If you're trying to hunt water teams specifically, I think this can be very good. Dex is just good in terms of getting like extra crit rate and stuff like that. You wouldn't have to run this. You could run a Pierce attack penetration or strike attack penetration, strike attack, anything like that, and that would work just fine. And then I just have another generic rune, critical rate and critical damage up for her here. In terms of target selection, this one's a little trickier, and I didn't list a ton of other characters. The main thing you need to know is you want to try and fight people with either low strike resist or low pierce resist, which, to be honest, a lot of characters in the game have a weakness to one of those, so it's hard to pair this, to put this up here, right? The big thing is she's an attacker. She does really well as just an attacker, but she doesn't have anything else going for her. Her job level 25 skill, Charge Formation, had potential, but I think Gumi just really screwed it up and it really doesn't give much value. So honestly, all she is just an attacker. So target selection is weird because it's like, who can she do damage to? Well, she can do damage to the water element. Warrior of Light's really weak to Pierce. Charlotte's weak to both Pierce and Strike. King Mont's weak to Strike. So these 3 tanks are weak to some of the damages she brings, which is great. I put Little Leela here because Little Leela can probably either 1-shot or 2-shot her, but Little Leela is actually really weak to Pierce resist. She has a negative 15 Pierce resistance, so if you were looking to bring somebody to just do a ton of damage to her, Velne could fill that role for you. In terms of the stay aways, you absolutely want to stay away from Earth with Velne. She doesn't have any sort of like lightning debuff type move like Ibarra has or anything like that, and you want to stay away from evasion. You can just build the absolute crap out of accuracy and maybe you will hit evasion with her, but to be honest, I doubt it. Her dexterity and luck are both below average, with dexterity being very below average, and I just don't think you want to even chance fighting those types of units. For skill selection for her passives, like I said before, Swift Pierce Mastery I have on every single time. I think the jump +1 passive is niche, so it's really map dependent. There could be a situation where you want to get her +1 jump to buff or like be able to enter the fight 1 turn sooner or something, but I think that's so incredibly rare. Honestly, the rest of them are all personal preference. If you're specifically trying to make a strike version of Velne, you can run Strike Mastery. If you want more health, run HP up. And if you're going just for like a Pierce attack build, Deadly Mastery is good. I honestly don't have a whole lot to say about any of these. None of them are fantastic, but they're all kind of around that same tier. It's just really what you want to use there. In terms of counters, I think Counter Thrust is really, really solid, especially 30% counter rate is not bad with the 121% modifier and piercing. The only thing is this can also hit your teammates, which kind of sucks. But my absolute favorite is the Dragon's Blade. It's very similar to Counter Thrust, actually has a higher range height of 2, which is actually quite a bit. And it's a typeless attack. It's not a pierce attack. I think everybody thinks this is pierce and it's not. So a lot of times you can do a ton of damage with Dragon's Blade and you're going to heal a bunch back. I think I have a fight in my showcase where she Dragon Blades somebody and basically heals to full health. It's actually kind of nuts. So this is my personal favorite, and I don't... Fist counter is kind of whatever. I just pretty much always run Dragon's Blade. For For the next page of the skill selection for main job attacks, like I said before, Night Hunter, I always leave on. It's just really cost effective and a really solid long range skill. I think Vacuum Slash here is a pretty decent ability, has a very short range, but could hit a couple of people if they stack up correctly. Earth and Glory, to be honest, I leave this on, but she never really uses it because it's a lot of AP. It's over 30 AP, and for bang for your buck, you may want to turn it off. To be honest, I think Armor Piercer is just as good, if not better, and since I'm running that VC almost every single time, you could turn this skill off. It's really up to you. I turn Obliterate off, but it really doesn't matter because she's not going to use it. The damage amount here is just so incredibly low that she's going to choose another skill every time. For the main job buffs, Charge Formation, this is a very rare use. I'm sure that you could probably find some sort of cause to use it, like in manipulating your turn order early for buffs and stuff like that. But to be honest, it's just not a good skill. If this CT was like 500 or something, well, now we're talking, and now it might be somewhat useful. But 250 is basically a quarter of your character's turn, and that's all it does, is you walk up and you basically get your CT and one other character's CT gauge to like 1/4 turn forward. That's just not a lot. That's just, like, again, if it was 500 or something, maybe this has a use, but I just don't think it's a great skill. I typically turn it off. In terms of Sharp Spear, I think this is situational, but if you want to get another buff off after you use your TMR buff, you could leave it on. I think I probably normally leave it on, but it's really just dependent on what kind of TMR you're running, what kind of buffs you want to get off. So in terms of the next page, I basically dumbed this down as much as I could. I didn't show every single skill because a lot of them are useless. I essentially don't ever run Lancer Subjob. There's one skill that's not that bad on it, but I just never run it. I run either Dragoon Subjob. This is my second favorite sub with the horizontal jump, just because it's a huge damage modifier and it's really long range. But my favorite subjob on her is Monk, and that's because Fist strike damage is the least mitigated damage in the game, and the second least mitigated is probably Pierce. So if you're running Monk subjob with the Lancer main, those are two really old jobs that are really not great, but it's two types of damages that are just not mitigated against. So I like running this because it very rarely do you run in a unit that has resistances to both types. So yeah, I like this one quite a bit. Store is a decent skill that she can run on a second turn buff. So you can pop your TMR buff, and if for some reason she's not in range to hit somebody, well, she can spike up her attack by 150% for one turn. Could be really useful. I just leave her strike attacks on and just leave it up to her in terms of what does the most damage. And that's pretty much all for skill selection. Okay, so now for the arena showcase, and I want to show you an example team I put together. So first of all, as you'll see with Velne, I do have the Cruel Arrogant Spear equipped on her, but I actually have the pod equipped too. When I filmed this video, I think I accidentally didn't have the level 13 equipment that she gets, like her special piece of equipment from Selection Quest. I don't think I had that completed yet when I filmed this, so just know that these stats or these results could theoretically be even better than they are now. If I'm going to hit play real quick and just show you a still frame of some of the stats that she can get. 92 agility is not bad at all, considering she has Kane's TMR and she is going to have haste. She gets her dex up to a decent stat from that really abysmally low starting point. She has 8,900 HP, which is not bad, and her attack stat is 1754. So bringing in that pierce and strike damage, those damages that are not really mitigated against, we should be able to do quite a bit of damage here. Okay, so for the first fight that I'm going to show you guys is a full water team, and like I said, if you want that water hunting character, Velne can work just fine for that. So we've got a 120 Titus, 120 Celis, 116 Astrius. The gear is pretty fairly well optimized. The vision cards could be a little better, I would say, but overall a decent team, and let's just kind of see how much damage Velne can do to this squad. Alright, if you guys are getting value from this video, please hit that like and subscribe button down below, and let's get into these arena fights here. So Charlotte's going to use a track wall and run up just like she normally does. And then we've got Velne with the Kane TMR. So she's going to pop Dragoon's Pride, get that haste and move up so that she can get into the fight. She gets Resnic's buff as well, and now she has Sharp Spear up. So she is fully ready to go at this point. She is ready to just delete some people. Charlotte pops Gloria's armor and runs forward. Celis walks up, does her moves, not going to do a lot of damage because she's a tank. And they get their Hastig buff off. we do almost 11,000 damage to the Celis with Terra Slash. So that's a very solid start, I would say. Charlotte comes in, does 5,600 with the Lightning Strike, Lightning debuff down. Velne walks up, damage caps Astrius with Surge Strike. And we should be able to delete Titus in just a little bit here. Got the Lightning Strike down. That did a lot of damage, actually. And Armor Piercer. So as you guys are seeing in that ability there, which she did just damage cap Titus. The only reason we were even able to hit them is because she had Armor Piercer. She doesn't have ways to hit in different types of directions, and that is specifically why I like that VC so much in the sub slot for her. Okay, so for the second fight here, we have a Charlotte Cloud Yuna team. So we're going up against another Lightning team here, and I just kind of wanted to show you guys how much damage she can do to tanks like Charlotte who don't have a lot of Pierce or Strike resist. So let's get into this fight and check it out. Okay, so we've got the second battle starting here. Cloud is going to walk forward, do Soldier's Honor. We've got Resnick buffing our Velne, so everything is in good shape here. Charlotte's going to walk forward with the Attract Wall buff. Got the Teachings of the Strongbolt on Velne. And got Sharp Spear up. So again, she is activated at this point. And if we were on a shorter map, probably be even better, just doing the one buff and getting in there. But this way she does have quite a bit of AP built up because we have so many different sources of acquired AP on her. So she has 78 AP here, 8364 from the Terra Slash. So she actually chose to do a strike move rather than pierce move. But again, either way, a lot of times characters don't have ways to mitigate both types of damages, because that can be really, really useful. She walks forward, 9100 from Surge Strike. Again, really good damage. They drop the full life on Charlotte, so they're gonna make us kill her again. We get the Limit Break, so now both teams are full health again. Charlotte drops the Lightning Strike, 7400 damage. Terra Slash damage caps Charlotte and then deals over 7k to Cloud. Does the auto attack to Yuna. She Aeon Bonds, so she heals up to full like a bee. And Velne walks forward. She is out of AP here after using like 3 abilities. So she gets a little AP down. Charlotte removes Yuna, which is great. Charlotte's kind of popping off, I'm not going to lie. Resnick does the auto attack because she doesn't have abilities turned on. And we Surge Strike Cloud for the win. So we took down the other Lightning team there. And let's see what we've got for our next fight. Okay, and for our final fight of the day, I don't necessarily recommend going against this team because I think Joom could potentially protect herself against this comp, but I noticed that she had a Golem Esper, and a lot of times that means she probably has Pierce resistance. So most likely, she is going to use her strike attacks against Joom. That's just one of those things, like I said, it's really nice because it's hard to mitigate the damage. So let's see how we do against this pretty meta win team in More the Merrier, Joom, and Sodali. Alright, we've got the final battle kicking off. Gonna do our same buffs as we normally do. And get our super hyper carry Velne online. We've got the Dragon's Pride buff on. Joom's gonna do her Vacuum Veil, so she gets her Protect Shell up. She has Hate. And Velne's ready to go in and do some work here. Got Charlotte out in front, which is great. So he does Indoctrination, actually, to Charlotte. Doesn't pop the Limit Break, so he confuses her rather than charms her. But Joom will knock her out of that, which is great for us. And Velne should be able to walk up. Terra Slash, 10.8k to More the Merrier. And a decent amount of damage to Joom. I actually missed how much damage it was. So we actually got Velne confused, which is really unfortunate for us. Lightning Strike down the Joom. And this is actually hilarious. Velne kills our Charlotte, also does damage to the Sodali, gets the Limit Break up though, so she is fully healed again. And now she is knocked out of her confusion, Dragon Blades the Sodali for 10,000 damage, full heals herself, and Surge Strike kills the Joom. So Velne just goes absolutely nuts, basically kills, what, 4 units? She killed the entire other team, she killed her own Charlotte. She's absolutely popping off, killing literally everybody in the entire game. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really appreciate every single one of you guys. You guys are amazing. I hope you have a wonderful day.